Coming up next on the CHGO Cubs Podcast, presented by Toyota. Wild Thought Wednesday. Where are we going to go with this? I'll tell you, we're going to go big. Plus, Belly gets bank. And who's the most underappreciated Cub? Cubs over everything. Is that what we say? Cubs over everything. Cubs over everything. Let's go. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by our friends at Toyota. Happy 21st of January. It is Wednesday, and Joey Christopoulos is back in the building after a much-deserved one day off.
That's it. It's over.
I'm Luke Stuckmeyer. Sarah running the ones and twos.
Go Cubs.
Go Cubs. That was very quiet. It
Go
gets
Cubs.
quieter each time. I don't know what's going on, Sarah.
There's no sun today, by the way.
Oh, the sun's not out, so it goes
sun's
from
not out.
Go Cubs to Go Cubs.
Also,
Go Cubs.
degrees in the positive form, I don't think are also going to be out in the next day or so. It's supposed to be -10, Luke.
I actually kind of like the polar vortex. I think it's fun. We all band
You
together.
like the polar vortex?
To I don't know, come
I
together.
do
in
have
the
a bunch of
cold.
chili in my fridge. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
I came prepared.
The world isn't ending. It's not ending. It's going to be a little cold. I'd rather have the polar vortex than I would 105. Okay, I've lived both ways. I lived in San Antonio, South Texas with the humidity, and it's 102 every single day. And I've lived in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where if it gets above zero, you're like, woo, shirts off, let's go party. It feels warm to me, no coat.
I'm with you, and be your thirst. I think you might know this too. I'm waiting here, waiting to watch from Evanston, but live in California. And is it worth signing up to the CHGO Club? Let's get it out of the way. Of course, it's worth signing up to the CHGO Club. You can become a diehard whenever you want. $36 initial offer. If you use the code JOHNS, JAHNS.
We like to also call it the Sicko Circle.
The Sicko Circle, if
or
you will.
The Circle of Sickos.
Welcome in. Come into the circle. Stay in the circle. Also, you probably know what I'm talking about. Where I agree with you, Luke, that I lived in LA for 15 years. The funny, ironic part is it's sunny every single day. Well, no, from August and September, it is about 115 degrees almost every day. And it is just as bad going outside in that weather. And honestly, not as healthy for you as it is in this sub-zero weather. So either way, there's days where you have to be inside in either situation.
I have the record to prove it. You can only get naked when it's hot. But when it's cold, you can always put another layer on. Actually, I don't have the record, but
I love how you gauge most things in life of whether I can get naked for this or not. And I just think it's a weird way to do it.
You're still going to be hot, but you can always put another sweater on.
That's right, Dominic Fortini. It is
blanket.
a sick sitch. It is a sick. Get into a sicko situation, if you will.
Let me tell you what's sick is that I dreamed of. I started thinking about what else could they do, and that's part of this show we're doing today. And the Cubs, I just kept seeing Bellinger still out there. And I don't know that I was goo-goo gaga over his 2 stints with the Cubs, but he was out there. And I was thinking, well, what if a bargain falls down to him? Why, I could still put him in right field and have Say go back to DH and figure out the Bellinger gets. Once we saw the trade of Luis Robert to the Mets, I knew it was over. I knew that deal was getting done. And there it is. Wow, 5 for 162, but that's not the incredible part. The first 2 years, $85 million guaranteed before he can opt out of that bad boy. $85 million in 2 years. Let's just say, and I don't know this to be true, but let's just say the Cubs were at least keeping tabs on it and had thrown something out to you know what, we could be in this range. We're not saying we're done. But call us back. What if they made that conversation? I guarantee it wasn't close to 2 years, $85 million.
No shot. And let's also say, too, that, look, the Yankees weren't going to go out of this empty-handed.
Right.
Right. And it came down to Bellinger versus seemingly the Mets. Those seem to be the two offers on the table. Congratulations to Cody Bellinger, by the way, because he's turned his reclamation first season with the Cubs, which I believe was at about $17.5 million, into a return engagement with the Cubs, which is 3 years, $80 million. That paid him $27 million. He earned that money. And then got traded to the Yankees, and now he's going to make 2 years for $85 million.
Yeah.
And then he can opt out and re-enter the market once more. It's a good move for Cody Bellinger. It's probably a good move for the New York Yankees because they got that short porch in right field. But yeah, if you were a Cubs fan thinking, man, could we maybe squeeze him in a little bit? There's no chance we were paying him $40 million a year. It would have been a 1 year opt-out situation. The other conversation that I've been having with Cubs fans in our Discord lounge, so if you become a diehard, you can converse and we'll talk Cubs sports and all that good stuff in our Discord lounge, was people were asking why I would rather have Bellinger or over Bregman, right? And so now that the money isn't equal, now that we know the differences in the dollar amount, yes, Alex Bregman in totality at $175 million will be making more money than Cody Bellinger. But that AAV alone and the fact that you know that Bregman's going to be here for 5 years, I'm taking that Bregman deal and I'm running with it over what Cody Bellinger just got structure-wise, contractually.
Yeah, I mean, Bellinger would give you a little more certainty in the outfield moving forward.
A little more versatility. Very fair.
But I still believe that Bregman is a better fit for what it means in the infield and the surplus they've created, however they determine to use it, whether it's stand pat, go with it. We love the surplus. We have a guy that we hope could be our next Ben Zobrist. Or you end up moving some pieces, whether that's now or later or whatever. Yeah, I was thinking that. Which deal financially now? Of all the guys we said, okay, that would work. This would work. This would work. Bellinger, I said, okay, if they want to do that. Tucker, okay, if they want to do that, but it's got to be the right price. Bregman, those were really the three big bats that we were kind of looking at, right?
Well, and Schwarber was early.
Schwarber was early. That still would have been my favorite move.
And it's the cheapest of all of them, and I understand that he is a DH only, so that's the only value that he brings, but that value is immense.
Of all the deals, I would say Schwarber is the one that I still would have loved the most. But after that, now that I look at the numbers and the players and where they would fit on this team, I'm happy that Bregman was the choice if it wasn't going to be Schwarber. And I don't think it was ever going to be Schwarbs.
No, look, there were no, other than us on this show and people saying their prayers at night, there was no Kyle Schwarber back to the Cubs. There was no smoke. There was no kindling. There was not even a tiny little match. So, ships passing in the night, I guess we'll never know. When we come back to all these names and Alex Bregman landing with the Cubs, we've said it here on the show, but it continues to prove itself out that he just continues to check a lot of boxes for what the Chicago Cubs need right now. 2024 Gold Glove, average to above average defensively 2025. So he's not going to completely fall off the map, and he's going to give you a real honest effort. His bat-to-ball skills are still elite. Does he provide the 30 home run power that maybe a Bellinger, an Alonso, or a Schwarber? Probably not, but he also, I think, will provide a lot more of some timely hits. I think he's a guy that you can easily stick into the middle of the lineup. And then again, when we finally talk about fit, I know for some Cubs fans, they just, they don't care how the sausage is made. They just want to put grilled onions on the sausage.
Oh, yeah.
I promise you, though, Alex Bregman, from a background leadership perspective and how he's going to bring some of these other guys along, I think is going to be a huge plus for the Cubs this season. So I think the Cubs got it right. I really do. And now let's be honest here too. The final one on that is Moises Ballesteros was just ranked the number 36 prospect across baseball. And I know I'm not a huge prospect hugger, and I know you got to prove it at the major league level. But if there is one guy that we can kind of bring along a little bit and see if we can transition him into a regular role, this is Moises Ballesteros' opportunity and time to mostly DH, maybe catch once in a blue moon, and see if you can find a way to be really impactful with 300 to 350 at-bats this year.
We're going to find out. You mentioned background, and I say, what about back? Just like Jim Lyons, for a guy who has back issues, $85 million is not bad. Listen, more power to him, Cody Bellinger. Think about the two Cubs deals And now this one with the Yankees, he is getting paid.
Yes.
Paid. A lot of these guys are getting paid, and still, I think the owners have the advantage in baseball. So whatever, that's the way it works. You had a tweet.
I did.
Last night that made me stop in my tracks. What's the Twitter handle again?
I'm at Joey Sports Guy.
Yeah,
Yes,
Joey Sports Guy. If you're not following Joey on Twitter, you should be following Joey on Twitter, because this tweet last night stopped the old man in his tracks. I'm walking through, and Joey puts out basically a tweet saying, in 2020, Chicago baseball had these 11 players all in their 20s. And you go through the list. And I think I got on the phone, unless you know them all who they are.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do it. So,
and all of these players in their 20s since 2020 have been non-tendered, allowed to walk in free agency, or traded.
Or just flamed out.
Or just flamed out. Give me this list, because this is when we thought we were walking on clouds in Chicago baseball.
Right, and this is just the background, was that I was watching PCA and Caleb hang out again for the second night in a row, and everyone is really excited about what the next 5 years as a Chicago Cubs fan, Bears fan, Connor Bedard, what this city can look like with young players in their 20s. And I just started thinking, after Luis Robert was traded, I was just thinking about Chicago baseball in 2020. And look, I didn't get everyone on the list, or maybe there's some people that would like to throw some other people on there, and that's totally fine. I was talking to my wife this morning. I got into some sort of Twitter argument with a guy named Nondescript Ice Cube. So that's my morning. But the number,
that's my burner.
But the list is, that was you? So the list was, think about it. In 2020, Chicago baseball had in their 20s, Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, Javier Baez, Wilson Contreras, Kyle Schwarber, Luis Robert, Yohan Moncada, Eloy Jimenez, Dylan Cease, Lucas Giolito, and Tim Anderson.
Wow.
And look, that is just, and it isn't about hindsight of what those guys turned into. It's about trying to objectively look back to 2020 and think of the excitement surrounding all of those young players in their 20s. And yes, some of the return in terms of via trade on these players have had some guys like a Caleb Killian. A lot of people like to say Kevin Alcantara should be included in the bottom portion of that list. But if you look at it, the true return right now for all those players is Pete Crow Armstrong. That's it. Edgar Carroll, we got 1 year of Edgar Carroll on the South Side, so I'm not going to make this into a Sox podcast. Kevin Alcantara, I get it. I'm rooting for him. I hope he becomes a fourth outfielder for the Cubs. But the dude has like 5 major league hits.
Yeah.
That isn't true return. And it's funny that I know that we're excited about the prospects that we have, or we can't trade Matt Shaw because he's the future and all this. That's it. You can't get too ahead of yourself in sports, because you just don't know exactly what's going to happen. If you looked at that list of guys in 2020, you would think, man, this next 5 years is going to be a lot of fun here in Chicago, North Side and South Side. Unfortunately, it did not work out that way, and each story was different.
I would have added one more name to the list to make it a dirty dozen, and that would have been Kopech at the bottom. Okay?
People wanted to add Crochet too as well, but he had only pitched 5 games in 2020, and I'm just trying to be objective with myself. In 2020, I did not think Garrett Crochet was going to turn into a Cy Young monster at that time, where I think I'm with you. I think I had higher hopes for Kopech than I probably had at Crochet. So I can hear you.
I did.
I hear you on that dozen of the list for sure.
Okay, so take that dirty dozen and say, okay, that was 2020. It's exactly what you said. First of all, I thought the Cubs were going to multiple World Series. They went to 3 NLCS. I'm not saying it wasn't nothing.
Great run.
But their core young guys never really lived up to the hype that we thought was going to be return trips from 2016, okay? Then the White Sox traded away all their players, and you thought, yep, they're taking the Cubs' path. They see the blueprint, and they're going to do it. And I saw the list of those 12 names, and I thought, man, we were delusional. We were delusional, and that's why you can't prospect hug. Not even when those prospects make it to the big leagues and show you just a little glimpse of that possibility. Because I was thinking Cubs-Sox World Series. I was thinking maybe multiple trips for each team to the World Series. And here we are. What's left of that group? KB's back is in a shambles. Rizzo is retired. Javi's playing center field for the Tigers. The only person on that list, I think, really, really succeeding to a high level is Schwarber.
Correct. Cease got paid, but he's a polarizing player. I mean, He had an ERA close to 5 last year. We've done it here on the show of people that love the stuff, but people question the results, right? And that continues with Dylan Cease. Yeah, Nick Madrigal's a name. Ronaldo Lopez is another name. I mean, I believe
he's basically out, even though he's getting another chance.
And look, Yu Darvish, I think, was still in his 20s at that time, too. I didn't really include him on that list because then, of course, then you can add Owen Casey, which turns into Edward Cabrera as a return. But just that core of players right there, you felt confident that Chicago baseball was set. And frankly, not to make this a Bears thing too either, but that's why I'm still so bummed about the Bears, is because this stuff can be so fleeting sometimes. And why I'm always like banging the table for either spend money or get serious is because you have to take every season and make it as sacred as possible and try and get as far as you can, because you just don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. And it's just funny, man. It's only 5 or 6 years ago, and all those guys are gone.
And our guy, Craig Brindle, who's always trying to trade Shaw, says, and that's why Shaw for Gore, Mackenzie Gore, makes sense.
And Godfather, that's why your farm system is so important. Got to keep drafting well.
All right.
I agree.
We're going to get to more to that. What should the Cubs do? How do we relate what we just heard to the future of the Cubs? It's coming up next on the CHGO Cubs Podcast, presented by Toyota. Question for you. What if you could have reliable, intelligent Wi-Fi? And what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years?
Wow.
That's the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes everything in your home work together, that finds and fixes problems before you even notice that you have them. Like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a 6th sense, and it lets you stream the game even while your family is also doing that, and they're online at the same time. All your devices working in perfect harmony for 5 whole years.
5.
And here's the best part. No annual contracts, no hidden fees. And Xfinity's best equipment is included. Take it from me, a lot can change in 5 years. Championships are won, records are broken, dreams grow bigger. But your Wi-Fi, it should be reliable, and the price, that should stay put. Lock in your price right now. Unlock the possibilities of Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions apply.
I got a question for all the kind gentlemen watching CHGO Cubs right now. As a man right now, are you starting to feel like you have a little low energy throughout the day? Well, look, it might not just be the gloomy winter weather out there right now. It might just be that your body is changing. It ain't your fault, but there's something that you can do about it with Game Day Men's Health. We got to shout out really quick. Game Day Men's Health, one of their wonderful customers, it's Josh. Josh has lost over 100 pounds over the last year with testosterone replacement. He committed to it, and he committed to the plan. And whether it's peak performance or becoming a better father, better husband, better man, better Josh, better podcaster, better dog father, it's Game Day Men's Health, because they want to support every man's health journey through personalized care that's tailored to your goals. They have extremely highly success rate, and you can feel better and have more energy, whether it's testosterone, vitamin supplements, weight loss, hair loss treatments, whatever it is. Game Day Men's Health is there for you. So scan the QR code below to find out all the wonderful offers that Game Day Men's Health has, and turn this 2026 right around.
Welcome back to the CHGO Cubs Podcast, presented by Toyota. Hi to everybody in our live YouTube chat. A lot of the sicko circle and diehards, as we like to call you. Gary Ross says Gore no longer an option. But today, Gary, is Wild Thought Wednesday.
Wipeout.
That's right. A couple years ago, I gave you the Wild Thought Wednesday that the Cubs should go after Bo Bichette. I gave you the Wild Thought Wednesday that the Cubs should go after Vlad Jr. While the Blue Jays were floundering.
Love that one.
Didn't happen. But they didn't listen to me. So I say today, the Cubs need to go from good now to already better, but make this offseason the best. Go big. What should that be? Why not stop? Relating to what we were saying before the break, we were talking about the list of 11 or 12 guys that these two teams in Chicago had at 2020, young guys in their 20s. And it is an argument for the Shaw trade, frankly. I'm not saying you really need to go do it, but it's why you make the move for Bregman over Shaw. That's what I'm really saying. Yes, it could be you take Shaw and you try to restock the farm system or you try to get a different piece, whatever. But it's the better argument for you're going for certainty. I want to win now. I want more certainty. Can I guarantee you that Alex Bregman is going to be one of the 3 best players on the Cubs next year? No, but it's way more certain than Matt Shaw will be one of the 3 best players on the Cubs. And that doesn't mean necessarily trade Shaw, give up on Shaw after what you saw. It just says, yeah, for the next 5 years, with all the other intangibles, spending money on something you know usually is a better move than just hoping that a handful of prospects will all turn out and do what the Cubs did in 2016.
Absolutely. And to also take it further, like, sign Zac Gallen instead of banking on Jackson Wiggins to come up and be somebody, right? And what I like about at least what you're presenting right now and the way that the Cubs need to think about it if they want to get big and they want to go big picture is the first one is day 9 of the Do Not Trade Nico Hoerner campaign. We're off that now, baby, right? Like, because Nico Hoerner is certainty in your lineup. Matt Shaw isn't. Now, I can easily make a case that Matt Shaw as that super sub can still give you 300, 400 bats. He can plug into all these different places. He's going to learn right field, maybe spell a little left field. He's going to play some left. He's going to play some second. He's going to play some third, all that good stuff. But again, if you can somehow find a way to have a return for Matt Shaw that, look, I don't know if it's going to help you in the here and now. Like, I don't know if Matt Shaw is going to bring in, the guys that we mentioned on the show. Will Matt Shaw have Joe Ryan in our opening day lineup? I don't know if I can say that as an assurance, but what I can say is that if it is Matt Shaw, the big swing would be getting 2 pieces that you think are going to help you really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And if it is in the case of the Boston Red Sox, a guy like Connolly Early, who is very close to the major league level, maybe he doesn't help you exactly this year, or maybe he is a guy that competes with Wiggins or Steele or someone else for innings in the second half of the year. That's maybe the way that you can think about it and continue to turn it over. Because bottom line, like, Matt Shaw still has a lot to prove. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where that's landing a little bit. So they need to gauge what his value is right now. Can they extract that value now in a trade, or can they get it from him on the field? That's going to be the big question.
Some great comments in the chat. First of all, Uncle Ted really wants Yordan Alvarez. If that's so available, curious. I'm not against it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in that. I guess I'm curious why it is just Yordan. Now, to be very fair, he's injury prone. When he's healthy, he is a monster left-handed hitter from the Houston Astros. We did do that last year, so I'm asking him what makes this one a little bit different this time around. But it would make them better. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Joey, Uncle Ted's on the right track. We're talking Wild Thought Wednesday.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be 100% reasonable for Wild Thought Wednesday. Gary says Matt Shaw is the Dodgers version of Michael Busch. He thinks that type of deal will come for top prospects. Who was the name I saw right before that? I really, really liked it. Carter Hawkins, 113 says Matt Shaw in a deal for Mason Miller. See, now that's a Wild Thought Wednesday.
Now we're talking.
It's a name we brought up before. But would Mason Miller's upside from what you saw, like in the playoffs and stuff, like, would that be more valuable or give you equal value this year to what Matt Shaw would give you as the super utility guy and the backup player at third, at short, at second, the flexibility of if somebody gets hurt, if somebody's out for a month, if somebody's out for the season, give you that kind of flexibility. I'm not saying Matt Shaw doesn't have versatility. I'm not saying Matt Shaw doesn't have great value. I'm not saying Matt Shaw doesn't have great upside in a Cubs uniform. What I'm saying is it's Wild Thought Wednesday. And one way to add would still be another big trade. Mason Miller would be a big trade. I don't know if that means Matt Shaw and somebody else. I don't know what the deal would have to take. I'm just saying, let's think wild. I don't want the Cubs to stop now. I want them to go from good to better to best offseason. This is a time to double down and go all in. You won 92 games. The Dodgers are still thinking about Freddie Peralta, okay? So, yeah, I think we should be able to think about the Zac Gallens, the Mason Millers. If you want to say Yordan Alvarez, fine. Give me your Wild Thought Wednesday. What would be the big move the Cubs could still make this offseason to take them from better to best.
So my wild thought Wednesday is, and we're going to talk through it, is I still want to make a compelling case that Zac Gallen can fit on this rotation. And I think he's also a fit for the pitch lab. How the Cubs, I believe, can get him back to, I don't know about the Cy Young status that he had in 22 and 23, but I think they can get him back to the top half of a rotation type starter as a number 2 and number 3, and just really roll it out for a 162. As I've mentioned on the show, be the team that says, we might not be as talented as the Dodgers, but we are so deep on our team that over the course of 162, if we do play the Dodgers, they're going to have to play us at Wrigley Field for the first couple of games. That is one way to attack being dangerous in the postseason. I mean, if you wanted to get like wild, Wild Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Okay,
Wednesday.
Wild Wednesday. Cade Horton, Matt Shaw,
Wednesday.
Jackson Wiggins, and Moises Ballesteros for Tarek Skubal right now. You can also flip that out and then bring in Eugenio Suarez to play DH for you. And
you
all of a sudden,
off my seat.
all of a sudden, you're saying to yourself, and then obviously arbitration, you give Tarek Skubal that $32 million that he wants.
Yes.
You go over the luxury tax
So
to
what?
about $265 million, and you go out there and you try and win a World Series.
What was the package again? Wild Thought Wednesday?
Horton, Shaw, Wiggins, probably also Ballesteros. You sign Eugenio Suarez to play DH. You don't really have that super sub that you want, but you do have Alcantara as a 4th outfielder out there. You're going to have to figure out something on the infield. This is wild. This is Wild Wednesday. This doesn't mean
Wild Thought Wednesday.
It's almost like Wild Ayahuasca Wednesday a little bit too as well, because I don't know if I fully believe it, but if they wanted to get crazy about it, they do have some pieces under control. Yeah, Wild is right.
Randy says you just lost us the division, Joey.
What? How did I lose this in the division? With Tarek Skubal at the front of your rotation? Yeah, way too much. Way too much for Skubal. I hear you. But that's what it's going to take.
Not if you can sign Skubal. Well, it's money and prospects. That's the hard thing about the Skubal deal that we've always said. That's why it hasn't happened yet, because some team has to literally give everything. They have to give all of their best prospects to get them, and then you're not doing it unless you sign them to the contract, and so there's only a certain amount of teams that can do the money. Okay. I mean, that's a Wild Thought Wednesday. Skubal is more certainty than Horton, Wiggins, and Ballesteros.
Correct.
But boy, that upside could be really good. But what did we just tell you about prospects in 2020 that were on Chicago's baseball teams? Listen, I don't know if but it was a Wild Thought Wednesday. I'm for it. What would you rather have now? And these are different things you'd be approaching it. Gallen in the rotation for, I don't know, $15, $16 million a year? Or would you rather have Mason Miller in the rotation, maybe? Another arm in the rotation, and somebody else could move to the bullpen, but you could always move him to. I saw somebody, I think it was Gary, saying, hey, he wants to be a starter. Well, yeah, but once you get him here and you're in charge, you put him wherever you want to put him. That's the way life works.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, so whatever. My point is, would you rather have Mason Miller in a trade for Shaw and probably something else, maybe even, or would you have $18 million or $15 million or $16 million for Gallen, or would you rather have Shaw and another package with, could be Wiggins most likely, to go get Joe Ryan finally?
See, okay, those are three really good choices. I'll be honest with you. Okay,
it's Wild Thought Wednesday.
And I'm going to order them out. I'm going to order them out accordingly. I think Gallen provides a solid floor and is a more realistic option to bring in right now. And we're going to dive into why I think he could definitely fit in the rotation moving forward. You threw Joe Ryan in there at the last second, and darn it, Luke,
Joe Ryan.
That makes you the best in the biz. I'm going to go number 1 with Joe Ryan, man, because honestly, I do think that he is a 1A or at least a solid, really, really good number 2 starter who's entering his prime that, frankly, is flying a little under the radar on a really bad Minnesota Twins team. Because I was originally going to say if it was Gallen or Mason Miller, give me that 105 on the outside corner that he threw to Carson Kelly, and let's rock and roll. And that's the outgetter. If you're telling me you're pairing him and Palencia for your final 6 outs, I don't really know. We can have 9 starters if we want to, as long as those last 2 innings are covered. However we get to those last 2 innings, that's what would matter most.
All right, we're going to do who's the most underrated Cub coming up in just a bit, but I still want to continue this. Who is your Wild Thought Wednesday move for the Cubs. This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by Toyota.
Hey, Cubs fans, what is your goal in 2026? Do you have a strength goal? Do you have maybe you want to get more consistent with some of your protein in your diet? You want to try and balance the good days with the chaotic days that you have to get through? Well, the answer is right here. It's Huel, everybody. That's right. I got in my hands right now the Daily Greens Blueberry Lemon and Thyme with 42 vitamins and minerals. What do you got, Luke?
Chocolate peanut butter flavor.
And look, whether it's gym days, busy days, days where you crush it, and days where you don't, Huel has got your back. Do you ever finish a workout and you say to yourself, man, I haven't even eaten anything yet, and you don't want to go overboard on the carbs? Just pick up a little Huel because it is meal in a can or a bottle. So I've been trying to hit those protein goals every single day, and sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, but Huel has got my back to balance it out. So right now, they have a limited time offer. You can get Huel's full high protein starter kit today with the exclusive offer of 20% off online with the codes Cubs20, CUBS20 at Huel.com, CUBS20. There's for new customers only, and honestly, it just makes hitting those protein goals a lot less stressful.
From handcrafted steaks to delicious favorites, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. Enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, cozy and convenient comfort meals, plus tailgating favorites like chicken wings, smash burgers, and those big deli-style Franks. Right now, during their Red Hot Sales event, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com, plus an extra $35 off with the promo code Cubs, CUBS at checkout. This is Heartland quality food delivered right to your door. Omaha Steaks, unrivaled, 100% guarantee, family-owned company with over 100 years of expertise in the meat industry. Get fired up for grilling with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Red Hot Sales event. And for an extra $35 off, that promo code is CUBS at checkout. Hey, I love the halibut, believe it or not. They have seafood, too. Everything is good. I love my Omaha Steaks. 50% off omahasteaks.com, an extra $35. Promo code Cubs. Back on the CHGO Cubs podcast. By the way, I am starving right now.
Yeah.
Starving. What time is it? 2:30? I feel like I could eat my hand right now. I was looking at those Huels on the desk, and I was like, do we have more of those that are cold that if I drink it, we can still, put it on the desk? I thought about it. But when I asked Wild Thought Wednesday, what move should the Cubs make, we got a Toyota super chat from our friend Becky, one of the loyals, right? One of our diehards right here. And Becky says she had Cracker Barrel for breakfast yesterday. I don't know if that was meant to be a Wild Thought Wednesday or just meant to be a Toyota super chat. But Becky, when you said Cracker Barrel, you spoke to me. I haven't been there in a long time. I used to get the Uncle Herschel's.
Oh, I love the meatloaf there.
Barrel. But right now, I could eat a pile of mashed potatoes. Let me tell you.
And you're being coy about it, too. You're holding out on him. What did you have, for crying out loud? Will you tell us what you at least had at Cracker Barrel? Because their menu is expensive. Also, shout out to the chat, too, as well, in the previous segment. Me even mentioning Scooble. I love that the chat and you just took my keys away from me. And I was like, hold on, wait a second. I thought it was Wild Wednesday. And they're like, Joey, no. Give me your keys. No, we're calling you an Uber. Everything's fine. So that's what Sicko Nation's all about taking care of each other.
Our guy, the Godfather, Michael Collada, he's got his Wild Thought Wednesday, and he wants a new right fielder. He wants Harrison Bader.
Okay. I mean,
he wants Harrison Bader.
All right. I mean, look, he can also play a little center field. Nothing wrong with that.
I don't even know if it's a wild thought.
No, I think it's I think it's
that
in
seems
line.
Like a reasonable thought.
Yeah, it feels in line with some of the depth that Craig and Jed talked about over the weekend at Cubs convention. It would not be surprising. I would also say, though, now that Luis Robert is on his way to become a New York Met, you would maybe have to compete with the services of Harrison Bader on the South Side now.
Craig Brindle says Waffle House better than Cracker Barrel. Well, that's another show. We could do that one.
Yeah.
And it is a wild thought. I wouldn't agree with that one, Craig. And Becky has followed up. Luke and Joey, I had strawberry stuffed cheesecake pancakes with scrambled eggs and sausage. Wow.
Your mind just went right there.
I will tell you this. Wild thought. Here's my last thing on the food before we get back to a wild thought move for the Cubs. and into who's the most underappreciated Cub. I will say that I've been buying these chocolate-covered cherries from Michigan in the mail.
No pits, right?
No pits.
Yes.
And let me tell you why they're great, because you can hide them from the family in your pockets. If your pockets don't get too warm, they don't know you're walking around snacking on chocolate-covered cherries. If you had a huge pancake with strawberries all over it, you can't hide them. But nobody knows that in my hoodie, I've got 4 or 5 chocolate-covered cherries. That is a wild
Unless you get one of them
thing.
chocolate scanners and they start going up and down on you a little
That's
bit,
right.
and you start blowing up.
Ted likes
Then you got
Cracker
some-
Barrel, and Dominic
something to
says he
answer
could go for Long John Silver's. Now, I didn't even think they were still in business, but if they are and they want to be a sponsor, let us know.
Cheese biscuits, baby. Let's go. Table for 2, please.
All right, so those are my wild thoughts. Like Joe Ryan, we thought about it earlier because even at the trade deadline, we were kind of dreaming about it. That would be a wild thought that the Cubs would still do something that big, especially because, as we mentioned yesterday in the talk with the Gallen stuff, sooner or later it becomes, well, who's going to actually be your 5?
Yeah.
Who do you actually have room for? And I just say, well, it's not that crazy of a wild thought because I can start the season with 6 and I can wait and see. And if I've got Joe Ryan in my rotation and he's Joe Ryan and Cabrera's healthy and Cabrera's doing what he's doing and Cade Horton is healthy, all of a sudden I have so many flexible pieces to either restock the farm system, as I like to say, with whoever. If you want to trade Wiggins and try and get back at multiple prospects, fine. If you want to trade Tyone at the end of his deal and try and get guys back, fine. If you would have tons of options with all those pitchers. And I say it's the way of baseball. I see it as the future. Everybody trying to stockpile like 12 starters.
Right. And I think the Cubs should get into that, pardon the pun, arms race in that regard.
Yes.
So when we're talking about Wild Thought Wednesday, and let's get into the Gallen stuff, especially if it's just for adding another starter maybe to the mix for the Chicago Cubs, because I see it a lot in the comments. And I think it's a very fair question, but I'm here to also tell you, you got to think about this. This is what we do in the offseason. We always kind of get ahead of ourselves and we ask ourselves, well, how is this person going to fit in? How is this person going to play? I try and reiterate all the time. It's a 162-game season. It is an incredibly long marathon, not a sprint. So you need as much as you can to insulate yourself from stuff that might come around the corner that you don't see coming. And here's the thing is that, like, the people are like, you can't do a 6-man rotation. You can't add another starter. What's so funny about that is that's what ends up happening in the middle of a season anyways. Mm-hmm. So why don't you just get ahead of it? It isn't counterintuitive to overstock the shelves with inventory and see how it all plays itself out, because guess what? It probably will play itself out without you even doing anything. So here's what I did was, I think a lot of people, when they think about a 5-man rotation, they think it's the most optimal scenario possible, that every guy is going to take the bump every 5th day and they're all going to be awesome. We all know that that's not true, and that's okay to think like that. Let's look at the most optimal scenario that we can remember in our recent memory. And let's go back to, we just did Cubs convention, the 2016 Cubs. The 2016 Cubs had a 5-man rotation that you can count on every single day. And these are their average innings per start. John Lester, 6.31. You can see Arrieta, 6.35. John Lackey, 6.48. And then Hamill, 5.53. Hendricks, 6.33. That means every time they went to the bump, they were averaging at least 6 innings per start or more. Out of a 162-game season, those 5 starters accounted for 152 of the 162 games that they could have possibly played. That is the most optimal scenario for a 5-man rotation you could possibly get. Now, let's look at the 2025 rotation, a rotation that we felt pretty good about, but frankly ran out of a little gas. And when we were playing the Brewers, we were asking ourselves, who the hell is starting Game 5? If you look at the average innings per start, of course, 10 years later, it's going to be a bit of a dip because guys don't go as deep into games as they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But Matthew Boyd leading the charge at 5.77, which is right on line with being about 30 innings off of a 200-inning season, which Lester had 202 of in 2016. Shota Imanaga, 5.76 innings per start. Tyone, 5.6 innings per start. Cade Horton, 5.36. Colin Ray, in 23 starts, had a 5.29. Out of 162 games, Those 5 starters only made 108 starts, all for reasons that we know, right? Shota got hurt. Cade Horton got called up. Jamison Tyone, calf strain. Colin Ray went back and forth between the bullpen and the starting rotation. What we're getting at here is, if you look, Justin Steele got hurt, out for the year. Ben Brown made 15 starts. All these different guys had to show up and start games for you. The 108 out of 162, Luke, is, I think, closer to reality than the 152 out of 162. So why not just stock the cupboard with guys that are starters? And if they have to transition into different roles, it can be done. I promise you. On the 2016 team, Mike Montgomery, converted starter. Trevor Cahill, converted starter. Travis Wood, converted starter. All those guys had to fit into different roles on this team, and that's what the 2026 Cubs are going to have to ask out of Javier Assad, Ben Brown, Colin Ray. Keep adding starters to this mix, Luke, and I promise you, over a 162, we will be better off for it.
Yes, Gary doesn't like what I'm saying. He says, no, 13. I understand the numbers of what it can be. First of all, I want to repeat, it is Wild Thought Wednesday. That means it doesn't matter what I say. I've already categorized it as a wild thought.
We're struggling with the wild part here.
This is the wild part. All I want is, I'm not saying I want all starters and 2 relievers. What I want is guys who can do both. Exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
I know that if I really wanted to at some point, and I'm not saying this is the way the Cubs should go, but could I turn Cabrera into a reliever? Yeah, I really could.
Bruce Levine asked that question at CubsCon.
So
it's not like, that's not a wild thought. He asked that question to Jed and Craig.
Especially if you stockpiled guys who were mostly just starters. If Zac Gallen's around, and listen, I want Cabrera near the top of the rotation. Joe Ryan would be a starter. But are there guys that could mix in other? Justin Steele's already pitched in the bullpen. Ben Brown's already pitched in the bullpen. A lot of those guys. Matthew Boyd has already pitched in the bullpen. So it can happen. And if I have Assad, if I have those guys, then I have that flexibility of I don't have to call it a start. I can do the piggybacks more often.
Thank you.
And it doesn't have to be a 6-man rotation, because
I
can have guys that are doing, everybody's throwing 5 innings now. Well, if we're going to do that, then we might as well just call it. We got a bunch of starters, and then we have our, for sure, 1-inning guy, 2-inning guy. Heck, we just mentioned Wild Thought Wednesday. Mason Miller is a guy that could be a starter/reliever. Okay, that's another one. So Wild Thought Wednesday. What would we've been talking about Shaw, right? And somebody mentioned Shaw for Mason Miller. Okay, Shaw for Mason Miller. I have no idea what the package would have to be for Mason Miller. But if they said to you, what if it was Shaw and taking Assad out of the bullpen? And you would say, well, I don't want to take Assad out of the bullpen. Yeah, but if you're getting back Mason Miller, you have a potential guy that'd be going back in. Would you be willing to put Shaw with Ben Brown? Is that too much to give away? Is it not enough to give away? Wild Thought Wednesday, you tell me. Is Ben Brown and Matt Shaw too much for a Mason Miller?
Not for me. Oh, I run to the till. I run to the ticket on that. You're
taking one guy out of the bullpen rotation. You're bringing another guy, and then you're giving your third base future.
And look, Carter Hawkins here in the chat. Guys have to be stretched out to start. Are you going to have guys stretching out in AAA? No, you're not. You work this out in spring training. And to Luke's point on a piggyback, I understand that we're all really excited about Cade Horton next year. Are you telling me that Cade Horton is going to magically turn into a 90 to 100 pitch starter right off the jump? Are you telling me that just because this year they capped his innings at around 120, 130, they're not going to try and cap them again, or at least try and protect the kid so he can finish the season healthy? You don't think Edward Cabrera needs a little protection at the beginning of the year? You're telling me that Matthew Boyd doesn't deserve maybe a little more protection at the beginning of the year? When you do a piggyback start, you can still run out Cade Horton for 60 to 75 pitches per start. Get 4 or 5 really quality innings out of him, and then you can bring in Colin Ray or a Matthew Boyd or however it shakes out, and then you can get 40 to 50 pitches out of them too as well. The days of 80, 90, 100 pitches, I just don't think that they're happening I don't see it with this rotation. I really don't. I get it. In August and September, you want these guys going deeper into games and pushing that envelope a little bit. But how do you get through April, May, and June to set yourself up for success? This is not as wild thought Wednesday as people are making it out to seem. I'm saying if you go 6-man rotation, I understand that you have one less player there. But again, 6-man rotation, if you have a piggyback of Colin Ray and Javier Assad, that's 2 days where you probably don't have to use a middle guy in the fifth, sixth, seventh inning. I promise you, there is a way to do it. It's up to Craig Counsell, who's made $40 million, you know what I mean, as the Cubs manager to figure it out, right? But I just think the days of specialized guys are over. I think that there's a bridge opportunity in that 6th, 7th inning and perhaps portions of the 5th where we can use multiple inning guys that are half starters, that are mini guys that can help get you into those last 6 outs.
Randy, the only thing missing from your chat comment is I agree with Luke. If you piggyback, say Horton with Tyone one game and Boyd and Imanaga another game, your actual 5 pen arms aren't used that much during the week.
Correct.
It helps save the pen as well.
Correct.
That is what I'm saying, and that's why it is a sort of Wild Thought Wednesday here on the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by Toyota. One more quick break, and then the most underappreciated Cub.
Wild.
They are ringing in the new year at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. Hot deals all month long during their Ray Resolution sales event. Stop in today. Drive home with 0% financing for 72 months plus no payments until spring on all new Chevy models. Or you can check out their selection of over 125 vehicles they have priced under $20,000.
What?
And with one of the area's largest Chevy inventories, you're going to find the perfect vehicle for you. And as one of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they keep their prices competitive. So you know you're going to get a great deal. And Ray's price promise, the price you see is the price you say, so you can shop confidently. Go see for yourself. Our partner at their convenient location on Route 12 in Fox Lake. Don't miss out on the Ray Resolution sales event going on all month long. 0% financing for 72 months and 0 payments until spring on all new Chevy models. Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
You know, Luke, I'm already daydreaming about baseball. I wanted to get here as soon as possible. But in the meantime, if there's a concert, if there's a Bulls game, Blackhawks game, there is no better app to get last-minute tickets than Game Time because it gives the advantage back to fans, and it is the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It is incredibly easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means that you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. So when you go to the checkout, there isn't something extra tacked on. What you want to budget for is what you're going to pay with the Game Time app. They've got amazing zone deals, and also you could favorite your favorite teams, and they will give you alerts on new ticket deals before anyone else finds out. Plus, that lowest price guarantee means that they will credit you 110% of the difference. So make sure you head on over to the Game Time app, download it right now, create an account, use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase, but remember, terms apply. Create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Tap ticket, go. Game Time app today.
All right, welcome back to the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by Toyota. We've been talking Wild Thought Wednesday. We've been throwing out wild ideas like trades. We've been throwing out the piggyback. Give me like 8 starters.
Why not? Keep throwing arms at them.
Keep throwing the arms at them. Stock the team with starters that also could be relievers and piggyback. Let's see.
I want that piggyback.
Keegan says, I miss seeing starters going longer and throwing more, but velocity has a price. Absolutely true. And that's another reason you stockpile those starters, because they're versatile in that way and they can do both. We are going to talk a little underappreciation, because I got to thinking the other day, we hit in the podcast yesterday with Justin while you were gone. Thanks for taking that one day off. What did you miss?
He called me at dawn and said, you better be in the office.
What did you miss about us most in your 24 hours away from the building? Nobody works harder than Joey. And I got to thinking, all right, the topic came up. I said, who's going to be the best Cub in 2026? So I still want you to answer that. Justin and I answered it. The follow-up was, who needs to be the best Cub in 2026? That was the follow-up.
I like that.
And today's new question is, who's the most underappreciated Cub? We'll get to that. First, I want to hear your other one.
So,
who's going to be the best Cub this year, and then who needs to be the best Cub this year?
So who's going to be the best Cub this year? Man, Michael Busch is super close on that one. But you know what? I'm actually going to go Alex Bregman. I think in the first year of his deal, I think the all-around play of Alex Bregman, if he stays healthy, I think you're looking at a guy who's going to hit about 290, get on base 36 to 37% of the time, slug in the 440, 450. I think he can drive in 90 runs. He's going to be in the heart of the lineup, at least in the 2, 3, 4 that I believe in. So I think he's going to be driving a lot of runs, and he's going to be a catalyst to hopefully some offensive success this year for the Cubs. Who needs to be the best Cub this year? That one's easy. That's Pete Crow Armstrong, right? He is a star, and we want to put the super in front of that star. And as excited as we got heading into the All-Star break with what he put together in the first half, the need factor I'm feeling is with that PCA second half. Yep. And I think he has all the tools to become the face of the franchise, the best player on the team, one of the best players in the National League, defensively and offensively. So I think the going to be is Alex Bregman, because I think he's a veteran and he's going to stabilize our offense. But the need, if P. Crow Armstrong takes that next step forward for a full season, it is game on in Chicago. Forget the NL Central. I'm starting to think bigger about the National League and maybe even the World Series if P. Crow Armstrong is the 162 that he was predominantly for the first 81, right? And that's what I would go with that.
I think the need one is, for me, pretty clear that it's Pete Crow Armstrong because he has the highest ceiling of anybody on the team. And if he's a 40-40 guy or even a 30-30 guy, that carries a team if he can find his strike zone and stick to it and make that progress. Cabrera was another one that came up because if Cabrera turns out to be an ace and is the best guy in the team, all of a sudden your rotation is like, wow, he's healthy.
That's impressive.
And he's in a Cy Young situation. There was
and Michael Busch just continues to get better every single
Horton,
year.
there were other names. I just think because of the everyday play, I could see, yes. And I think that's a very reasonable to say Bregman because he's one of the most certain things. Doesn't mean he's a guarantee, but the certainty of him doing it over some of the other younger players is reasonable. So now, today I'm asking most underappreciated, and I want to put the qualifier on this. This is sort of like saying underrated, which starts some crazy conversations because in order to be underrated, the guy has to have some expectations, right? Like, I don't know what to say, or he has to be doing something. Underappreciated could still be the highest paid player on the team. He's appreciated money-wise, but we don't always appreciate what he's doing. It could mean somebody lower down the team in value, but is getting paid next to nothing. And so we're underappreciating what we're getting for the price, which allows us to do the other things. So I think it's open to a lot of guys. I see the chat has already started. And it started with Keegan and Craig saying it's probably Ian Happ. I think he's on the list for sure. Carter then says Dansby Swanson is the most underappreciated. He's worth every penny. He isn't a superstar bat, so fans dog on him. Randy goes back to the other conversation, says best Cub is Ballesteros. It needs to be PCA. Underappreciated, a couple votes for Colin Ray. Then Dr. Professor says Happ is the easy answer for underappreciated. His slumps detract from his overall production. I think there are three names that come to mind the fastest to me when I talk about underappreciated. I like the Colin Ray answer you gave, but I think he's, at least for the people that I've talked to, the fans that I've talked to, I think they appreciate for the contract that we signed him to, they appreciate that this guy went from Craig Counsell saying we don't really want him to start, but we know he's going to start games this season. In fact, he'll be starting some playoff games potentially this season. So I appreciate what he gave us last season, which was not only a little bit of certainty, but a little bit of buffer and a little, it took away the heart rate a little bit because I felt good when he took the mound. I didn't feel great, but I felt okay. Happ or Busch, Craig? That's a good one. I think it's Happ, Dansby Swanson, maybe it's Bush, but I think an awful lot of people are starting to appreciate what Michael Bush is worth. And I'll throw in this name, Jameson Taillon, because I think the first couple years of his deal, people were mad at Jameson Taillon. And he, I heard when we first signed him, I was one person that even said, listen, this guy, if he were to exceed projections, could be a 2. Heck, he could even be a 1 if he really started to exceed projections. It was sort of the Cabrera conversation, although Cabrera's high end, if he can get it together and avoid the injuries, his stuff is way crazier than Taillon. Taillon has given us this baseline, this basement floor that is really, really been dependable. He gives you the innings. It's not that he hasn't been 100% healthy. The guy was everything you needed in the postseason. And I don't want to take him out of the rotation. We talked about the 5 yesterday. I said, I don't know how I can take Taillon out of that because I need that guy in my rotation. Every team hopes to have a Taillon in the rotation. The innings just keeps doing it. At the end of the year, you're like, he gave us a couple starts where he gave up too many home runs.
Yeah.
But he also gave us some great starts. So I think Taillon's in the conversation.
In regards to Colin Ray, what's interesting about Colin Ray that makes him not make my list is I think he earned that appreciation by the end of the year.
Yes.
Right? Where he was going out there every fifth day winning games, underappreciated. And then when the playoffs came around, I think people were like, oh, man, we should turn to Colin Ray. We don't trust Shota Imanaga. We got to turn to Colin Ray. And then I think Cubs fans were excited to see that they were able to create a small extension with him to keep him in the fold for at least this year and perhaps even the year after that. So he's almost like kind of earned that appreciation, which is good for him. My runner-up is, I agree with you, Jameson Taillon. And the parts that I found really interesting are just in terms of the interview and just seeing him commiserate with his teammates off of CubsCon was one. I think he's extremely liked in the clubhouse. He's funny. I think he keeps things loose.
Yep.
The other part about it too is that I learned that Jameson Taillon every single year he's the type of player that doesn't always just go out there and I'm going to just put my stuff out there and see what happens. He's always refining and changing things. Yeah. He has completely evolved and changed the way that he goes about his business on the mound over the last year or so, and he's seen great results with it. So in a strange way, Jameson Taillon could be in line for a huge season or a better season than he had last year because he continues to work on his game. He always tries to keep getting better. My winner, honestly, though, is Ian Happ. When Ian Happ was talking to Anthony Rizzo, they were talking about how hard a Major League Baseball season is, how hard it is to do it day in and day out. How Anthony Rizzo texts Ian Happ on June 1st and says, well, you got through those first 2 months at Wrigley, time to start playing baseball, and how 2-3 weeks of a hot streak can really make your season. And all Ian Happ does is do the same thing every year by hook or by crook. 20-plus home runs, around 80 RBIs, 80 runs scored, 30 doubles, Gold Glove defense, 245. I get it that isn't exactly the ideal production that you want out of a guy, but he does it every year. We don't even worry about it. It's not like we need PCA to be a superstar. Can Michael Bush take the next step? Is Bregman as good as he says he is? Can Nico repeat the WAR that he had last year? We don't have any of those conversations about Ian Happ because we know he's going to be a 3-WAR player and give us exactly what we need every year from left field. It's incredible, really, how consistent he is in just the solid way that he is.
It's funny. My 3 all have something that aggravates fans at some point. And I agree with the stuff other than those 2 months at the very beginning with Taillon. He's been pretty consistent. There have been a couple nagging injuries, but he always comes back, and he always seems to get it done when he comes back. Happ has, I agree, the answer for me, if I'm gun to the head, I say Happ. Because the production is always there. We know it's always there by the end of the season, but the slumps
are infuriating.
Drive you crazy because when he slumps, okay?
Yeah.
And so, but the production's always there, and if you compare him to other left fielders and the price you're getting him at, is it perfect defense? No, but it's been Gold Glove defense. And that, I don't expect him to be Pete Crow Armstrong in the outfield. He's a left fielder. So Happ is high on my list, but it's the slumps. Taillon is, I think people thought he was going to be a number 2, and they want him to dominate, and they thought the contract was for what you get from that contract, it's a great signing. And Dansby, well, everybody thought the hair would be perfect, and it has been.
Well, the hair has
and everybody
been
thought
perfect.
the defense would be pretty good, and it's been really good. And yeah, slumps just like Hap. So there's a reason for I think those are the three for sure for me that are the most underappreciated. But there are other guys on the team that make that list too. Definitely other guys. All right, we got to wrap it up. We got to go. Corey and Brendan, Thursday night.
Yes.
Cubs related. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by our friends at Toyota. It's been fun. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to the Sicko Circle, the diehards that gather around every day. Make sure you sign up to be a diehard.
Join the team.
And most importantly, thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day. Stay warm this weekend. And remember, always fly the W.